welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in this video we are going to implement our cart functionality. Okay, so the first part of this video is going to be where basically we add the product to the cart, and in the second part we'll fetch those products and see how it looks in the cart. So without wasting any time, let's just get to code. But before going that, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe and like the video. So let's just get started. To implement like anything, whenever you are implementing a new feature or a new implementation, like in our case now we want to add cart, we want to integrate that endpoint. So what we will do is that we'll start with all the necessary stuff that is required in the domain section. Okay, because that is our business logic, that is our abstraction level information that we want to share. So the first thing that I'll create over here is that I'll create a network service method. Okay, this method is supposed to get a request from me and then a response from in return. Okay, so I'll go over here and then I'll create this package over here with the name of request, and along with that inside that request I'll basically create a Kotlin class and call it add cart request. Okay, add cart request model. This is the first thing that we would do. Now this is going to be a data class. Okay, and this should contain a couple of things, right? Like this, I have it somewhere. So basically what we need over here inside this is pretty much what we have. Okay, so I'll create this cart request model. Along with that, we also need some responses as well. So what I'll do is that I'll create another Kotlin class file name and I'll call it cart model. Okay, and that cart model is supposed to be the response of how the data is going to look. So this is basically how it will look, and I'll just replace it with this section. Okay, and call it data class. Okay, now we need this cart item, and I'll create a new Kotlin class name and I'll call it cart item model. And now this cart item model is going to be added over here. This is just the response, like from in which format we want. And if you don't know what is the format, over here you can see this, what you need, right? This is the response that you'll get, and this is the request that you want to make. Okay, so now we have this section done, the models are done, and now we need to make this a data model, sorry, data class as well. And this cart item model should also have some details. Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll go over here and then I'll add these values as well. These are all coming from the backend. So if you have the JSON, you can just right click and create the models relevant to you. Okay, now this section is done. We have this request model, we have these response models. Okay, so over here in the network request section, what I'll do is that I'll create another suspend function. Okay, and we'll see add product to cart. Okay, so one way is that we can just pass all these things and we don't have to create the request model inside this. Second thing is that we create a request model and we say it to be add cart request model. Okay, and secondly, in return, what I want is that I want a cart item model in return from it. Okay, that is done. So our network service is done. The second thing is that we need to create a repository. So what I'll do is that I'll create the interface for cart repository. Okay, and like this is the same thing that I'll just copy it inside this, like we have this over here inside this as well. I'll add this. Okay, oh sorry, not this. What was the function? This is the function. Okay, so I'll add this, go over here, and then I'll replace it this way. So now we have this cart repository is done. So cart repository is done, network service is done, and these requests are done. Now the last part of this specific domain section is that we need to create a Kotlin class for use case, right? Now you'll better understand what use case is. Basically, now every action, like every action where we communicate with the backend or like anything with the database or through in business, whatever business logic that you have. So for each action, you'll have a use case. Okay, so add product use case. Okay, and I'll create the class, and this is going to have a cart repository. So I'll call it cart. Sorry, no, it's like this. It should be this. And inside this function, what I'll do is that I'll create add to cart, right? And that is going to be request of request model, add to cart request, and in return, it should get cart model. What do we miss? Okay, sorry. This is going to be an interface. Okay, done. We have this. We have in the repository cart model. We have the network service that basically return cart model. So our domain side implementation, our business logic is implemented, right? And you can see that this is complete abstraction. There is no implementation of whatsoever anything. We just implemented the cart, added these functionality. We just defined these at abstract level, right? And now over here, what we will do is that we'll start implementing those changes, right? So the first thing is that we need to implement the add to cart functionality over here, right? So let's just implement that. Okay, and now what we will do is that we need to identify what is the URL for that. Okay, so it says that if you post a request with cart/user ID, you should be fine to do that. Okay, so let's just do that. We'll create a URL. First thing is the URL. Okay, and along with that URL, we need to pass the user ID as well, right? So for now, we don't have a user ID, so I'll just add one to this because I don't have. In future, when we implement the login feature, we'll use it. Okay, so add to cart is done, and now this is the web make request that basically URL, and then it's passed the cart item model and cart item. Now I believe we want to make one more change before like doing anything, and that is, so the response should be mapped, but the request object should also be mapped, because this is, if we pass this as a request model, it will ask us to make it serializable, right? And we would not want that to, so that what we will do is that we'll go over here, and then inside this section, what we will do is that we'll create another class, and let's call it add to cart request. That is going to be add to cart request class, and then over here another class that says add, sorry, this is going to be cart response. Okay, these are the two things, both are data classes, right? And now we'll just use the same thing that we have over here. So in the request section, everything will be like this, and for the response section, we'll use cart model for response like this. Okay, like this. And also there should be one more item, and let's call it cart item, and that is going to be the cart item model. So probably this. And now let's just copy these values as well. Okay, the only difference for these classes is that these are going to be serializable, and these are supposed to have those annotation. Okay, now it will say that we are not able to serialize that, so we do that, we get that, and then over here this should also be a serializable. Okay, now that's probably what we have. So now what we will do is that rather than passing this request as any, what we will do is that we will map it. Okay, and this should be saying, so what we will do is that we'll go over here inside this add to cart request section, and now what we will do is that we'll create function. So what I'll do is that I'll go to from cart request model, Okay, and add this over here like this. Okay, one more thing that I need is that I need to paste it into the companion so that it is accessible. Okay, now that is done. So we'll use this inside this section. I'm gonna say add to cart request dot from, and then over here we'll pass the request to this. Okay, and then in return what we need is that we need to return model, and then that is going to be that is going to be cart response, and now that cart item is going to be implemented that way. So over here inside this section, what I'm going to do is that I'll create function to domain model, and that is going to be to it dot that is the cart item. Inside that cart item we also need to do function to cart item model, and these are the mapping that you need to create right before you can do that. And now once you do that, you'll be able to cart model. Okay, now over here we'll get over here, and then from here what we'll do is that we'll say this cart item model. Where is cart item model? No, 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 no. We need this to be updated. This is going to be cart model, not cart item model. So we need to fix these functionalities that we have created. Like over here, it should be cart model, not cart item model, because we need the whole response. Okay. And what else do we have left? Anything? Okay. So the network service is done now. And what we need to do is that we need to create the implementation for our repository. So over here, and let's just create cart repository and create the class. This is supposed to get a wall network service as an instance, and then along with that it is going to be cart repository implementation. Okay, and now over here we will implement that functionality and then straight away pass the network service dot add product to cart. Okay, it says that now we need to pass cart model, in return get cart model, and over here it should be cart model. Okay, so now the repository the error should go away, and that network service implementation is done. Cart response, cart item, add to cart, everything seems pretty straightforward now. And our use case is also done. Why is it interface? It should be a class. Okay, so this is the mistake that I made at that time. Basically this is supposed to be use case, so we'll say is equals to, or let's just not do, let's call it execute, and inside this section let's get a repository, and that is equals to cart repository dot add product, and then over here we'll pass the request. Let's make this function a suspendable as well. Okay, so now this is done. It has been quite a lot to absorb, I would say. So the first thing that I did is that I created the necessary models for my domain section. I created all the use cases and stuff, and then inside this section what I did is that we created a response objects for those in the data model and request, and like the models we create. So in the data section we created the models for data model, module, and then we implemented the implementation of all the functionality, all the abstraction that we define in the domain section, right? Now we need to do is that in the presentation section, we will basically use those functionalities. So let's just get started doing that. So inside, let's just go to the product details view model. And the first thing that I want here is the use case. Okay, so I'll call it wall use case is equals to add cart, add product use case, add to cart. I guess adds product use case, that is the name. Okay, let's just rename this as well to add to cart, add to cart use case, so that we have this understanding. Okay, now we have this, and now another thing that we need in this specific section is that we need to define some states. So I'll create a sealed class and call it list event. For loading, I'll just need a object, and we don't need this as an right. For success case, we have this. For error case, we have this, which is okay, fine. And we want one more event, and that is going to be nothing. Okay. And now we'll go over here, and then inside this specific section, I'll create a state flow. Okay, so over here, what we do is that we define the traditional state flows in our screen. So this is basically the UI state for that. And over here, this is going to be our UI product model that we will pass. And then we will do this like view model scope and then import. And now this is the problem. Like we need this as add cart request model, but we have a product, so we need to create some, the product from there. So what I'll do is that add cart request model, and then inside that we will do is that we'll pass whatever we have. So title, do we have an image? What does it have? It says price, and then we have a quantity. So for quantity, I'm gonna say 1 for now. What else does it require? It does require nothing else. So I guess, yeah. So I've just basically created a request from that, and then I executed. This basically sets to loading first, and then this use case basically is the same use case that we use for all the other web end. And then other than like if we have success, we send this message to the UI screen, and then if it's failure, we send this. Okay. So that is done. And now let's go to our screen over here, and inside this column section, what I'm gonna do is that I'll create another box, and I'm gonna say modifier dot fill max size. Okay. And now inside this section, what I'll do is that I'll call it the UI state, that is something like this. Okay, we collect the state, and then we say that state. Okay, let's just use this for loading, and then we will show an else part as well. Okay, so these are something basically this will help us show relevant stuff to the user. For now, I'm going to use toast, and but in future we can like update and adjust it accordingly on how we want to display different messages to the user. Okay, so what we will do is that what I'm gonna say is that we have a loading, right, and that is going to be remember mutable state of false, right. Then we'll have an error, and that is going to be remember mutable state of null, that is going to be null, but it can be other than null as well. What else do we have? For nothing, we don't have anything. Okay, and now over here we'll say if it's loading, we will create another box, or let's create a column. Okay, and something like this, and over here a text saying that it says adding to cart. I guess that should be enough. One more thing that we might want, and that could be to use a black color as a background. Okay, and the alpha should be like 8, so that, or maybe 7. Okay, this is loading. For loading we will be doing this. For error we'll just show error, so I guess we don't need this. Okay, so if it's loading, this means that this is true. For this case this is going to be false, and for all the rest cases it is going to be false. Okay, so the loading that part is done, and on success what we can do is that we can create a toast and show it. For now, login make text, and then we'll say nav controller dot context comma, that is something like this. Okay, and we will do the same for error, or maybe what you can do is that we will be UI state dot value dot message, something like this. Okay, so that whatever message that we get from the backend, we will upload it or show it. Okay, and use length long so that it stays for a while. And that's pretty much. And what else we need to do is that right now I'm just adding to cart on both cases, right, on buy now as well and for the cart as well. So over here let's call it view model dot add cart to product, and then we will pass the product to this, and we will do the same for this one as well. For now we'll definitely update it so that it follows the proper behavior. And one more thing that we want over here is that we want to have some styling plus colors as well. And rather than using colors like this, let's use it the material theme dot color scheme dot on primary. Okay, so now let's just run it and see. When we click on buy now, it does it try to add items to the, okay, yeah. So previously when we created, we didn't had the use case inside this product detail section. Now we have, so let's just add that as well. Okay, so it's loading, the products are loading. Let's just try to buy something cheaper. I guess these pants are cheaper, but they crash, so cool. Okay, so I guess it says that we were not able to create for the view model, and the reason is that the use case might not be available, and then it says that add to cart use case is not available, which is fine. So what we need to do is that we need to go over here in the use case, and you can see that we don't have that. So we'll create a factory, and then over here what I'll say that add to cart use case. So this is important. You need to define the dependencies so they are available. Okay, now you have this. Okay, now let's click on this. Oh, it's crashing again. Okay, it says that the cart repository is also not available. Okay, sorry again, my bad. We need to define the repository as well, right? So we'll just create another thing and then call it cart repository, and over here we'll call it cart repository impl. It is cart. Okay, I guess I named it really bad, so refactor it and rename it impl. Okay, And now if I run it this time, hopefully we will have this. And now you can see we have this image, this. Now if I click on buy, it says something went wrong. And why it's saying something went wrong is because we had one issue while creating the client, the generic method over here like this. We were using an internal API for this, so that is basically, it did complain at that time, but I just ignored it. Okay, so what we need to do is that we need to call the method setBody like this, setBody. Okay, so once you use setBody, and now if I use it and run it, you should be able to see this. Okay, and hopefully this time it will work, everything that we have implemented till now. Let's just wait for that product launch. Okay, now we have this product. Now let's create on buy. Now as I did that, it's something really bad happened. Let's just try again and see why we don't get the loader. Okay, I guess I know why it had that impact on our UI. This looks really bad, so I'll get back to my this section, and now over here all this box that I have, right, I'll get this and I'll paste it down here. Okay, and let me see if there is any color issues that I have done, like for background it's blue, or which is that is supposed to be black. Okay, now let's try again. This time it should work, although our cart items are being added, so that is one thing which is good. Our products are being added to the backend now, and now what we will do is that we'll try to fetch all those elements, right? So let's just try to add this product now. We have buttons. Now let's create, and you can see now it's a very cool loader that we see on top of it, right? So another part is done for this specific section. Now what we will do is that we will try to fetch cart. Okay, and for cart it's like, I would say we won't have to do a lot of things because we have the rest of the stuff is done. We just need to have a cart screen and we need to fetch those items in the list. So I'll quickly show you how the cart looks. This is how the cart should look. Okay, we have this top icon, and then we have these stuff, and then the checkout button in the bottom. Okay, so let's just get to the Android Studio, and now create a new package. Okay, so create a package, name the package as cart, and once that is done, we need to create a new use case. So I'll just create a new Kotlin class and call it cart get cart use case. Okay, and now this is going to be a simple class with wall cart repository, right? And inside that it should have a suspend function of get carts. Right now we don't have that, so let's just do it, right? So we'll do is this as get cart function inside the cart repository, and in the network service section as well, we will call it a function that says get cart with the cart model. Pretty straightforward, right? And now we need to define the use case this time, so don't forget to do that. Get cart use case, right? We have everything in place, nothing more, nothing less. Now we go over here and we get to the cart implementation. Now if you think, we have use cases different for each specific case, but since both the action that we do are related to cart API, so what I have done is that I have basically added both over here, right? So we'll do this over here, and now I'll go to the network service implementation where I'll implement this. So I'll just implement that function over here, and we'll create a URL. Okay, and now this URL is supposed to get this. Simple and straightforward. So this is done. Now in the repository module, we don't have to do anything. Everything is pretty much in place. Now in the UI section, in the presentation section, what I'll do is that I'll create a new view model. So I'll say cart view model, and that is supposed to have a wall cart use case, get cart use case, and it should also implement view model as well. Okay. And as soon as I create it, I'll go and then I'll create a new view model in the dependency injection for that as well, so that I don't forget it. Okay. A view model is in place, and now we will create a Kotlin class, and let's name it cart screen, right? And then over here we will do is that we'll create a composable, right? Let's just import that, call it function cart screen and nav controller. Along with that, we'll have cart view model as well, and we don't need to do that. And over here, this is going to be Koin view model, right? So these are the basic nitpicking that I've done, the basic boilerplate that I created. And now what we will do is that we'll create the cart screen, right? So we'll go to the cart model view models first, and you know what I'm gonna do is that I'll create a sealed class cart event. And now I'm gonna say is this is going to be object loading, right? Okay. Second thing is that I need class, or maybe data class success, but this is not to be string, this is going to be cart model, or if not cart model, let's call them cart cart is going to be cart item models. Okay. And last one is going to be an error message, so we'll just pass this, and then this is going to be this. Okay. And now what we will do is that I'll create UI state. So let's create UI state is equals to mutable state flow of cart event loading, and we also need to define that this is going to be any cart event, right? And let's just make this private as well, so that it's not accessible outside, not changeable, and rather we will use a state flow, right? So the mutable state flow can be changed, the normal state flow cannot be, you cannot change anything from the outside of this. Okay. And now we'll create a function, and over here what we will do is we will say get cart, and let's just get rid of this for now and call it view model scope dot launch, and now paste this, and now it's just use case dot execute. We get this result, we, if it's success, we pass this value, if it's fail, we pass the error value. But before doing that, there is one more thing that we want to do. The value is equals to loading as well. So if we refresh it, we should get the new value. And now you can see that it says that the value cannot be passed, because definitely the value for this is going to be the cart model, and but we want the data, so I'll add the data so that it returns the list of that. Okay, so that's done, right? The UI state is done. And yeah, one more thing that we need to do is that we need to get cart over here as well. And yes, that's that. Okay. Now we go to cart screen, and now we'll say wall UI state is equals to UI state dot value, and then we need wall cart items, right? And for that, what we will do is that we'll say remember mutable state of empty list of cart item model. Okay. And then we will do is that we will use launched effect of UI state dot UI state. Okay, so we need to collect as state as well. So we'll say UI state dot value, right? And inside this, what we will do is that when it's loading, we do some stuff. When it's okay, that's pretty much. So what we done is that for loading, we have this section, for that, and we have this section. And if it's empty, we definitely need to show some error over here. And what I'm gonna do is that I'll create loading, and then another thing is we need to create an error message as well. So over here, when it's loading, this means the error should not be shown. If it's error, then we show this and whatever error message that comes from there, from the backend. And in this case, when it's empty, we say there is no item in the cart and show an error message. Also, for success case, the loading should also go away. So these are a couple of things that I've done. One more thing that I forgot in the detail screen as well is that if you go to this section and over here, this section, right, this specific change section, we need to make sure to run these in the launched effect. The reason for that using in launch effect is that this will not be run if like the recomposition is done, right? It will only run when there is a change in the state. So like if loading, this will run once. If success, this will run once. If it's error, it will run once. Okay, now go back to card screen. And now if over here we have all this in place, right? And next thing that we need to do is that we need to create a column. Okay, and that column is supposed to have a title first, or maybe we can make it this way. So let's call it modifier dot fill max size. That is one thing. Second thing that is that we want this to be pull to refresh as well, right? So what we will do is that I'll call it pull to refresh state is equals to remember pull to refresh state. And this is an basically a experimental API, so that's why we will use it this way. And then we will see that if it's refreshing, we will be using this. But before ending the refresh, I want this to be there for a couple of half second or something. That's one thing. Second thing is that I'll create a box now, and now inside that box I'll call it like this, and that box is basically going to contain the container. And over here we will show something like this, and we don't need this. We'll just use this, and along with that we'll create a modifier. Okay, and then modifier dot align top center. Second thing is that we need a column, and now this column is supposed to contain a couple of things like modifier is equals to modifier dot fill max size, right? And along with that we want some padding, which is from each side, I guess 16 dp. And also there is just one more thing, and that is going to be nested scroll pull to refresh state dot nested scroll connection. Okay, so pretty much stuff is done. And now over here we'll create a text, a simple generic text. For our case, that is going to be saying cart screen. In our case, it is just cart. And then we definitely need to add some style to it. So we'll say typography, and that is going to be title small. Okay, then we add some spacer. We add some spacer, modifier dot size, that is going to be 8.dp. So now basically based on what the state is, like if loading is there, we need to show the loading. If like anything else is there, we need to show that stuff. So what I'm gonna say is that we'll say if, sorry, wall should show list that is going to be loading dot value is not like false, and also the error message is also null. So if that is the case, this means that we are going to show the list to the user. So for that, I'm going to say that animated visibility, and it should say show list, right? And then definitely this is basically cart item functionality that we need to implement. That is one thing. Secondly, the enter animation should be fade in as well. So I don't want that to coming from top right. It's just like it should come in this way. Okay, and one more thing is that dot modifier dot weight, that is going to be 1f. The reason for using 1f, I'll show you why I'm using this, but yes, that is one thing. Second thing is that we want if loading is there, right? If the loading is there, what we will do is that we'll show a circular progress indicator, and then modifier dot size, that is going to be 48.dp, right? And then we'll say if error message is not equals to null, we'll just create a simple text message that says, okay, if the error message dot value is not okay. Now we need to create this specific thing. We need to create a composable for this. So I'll create a composable and call it function, and this is going to get an item that is cart item model. So now we need to do is that we need to implement this. You can see that it's a raw. It has this button image, then we have this watch, and we don't have like two different things. So this will be the title and this will be nothing, and over here we'll show the price. Then we will have these buttons and then the delete buttons. Also these have like some borders from top to right side. So let's just start implementing those. So you can see that we have this one thing. So I'll just create a row, and then modifier dot fill max width. Okay, the second thing is that we need to add some padding. So I'll just add padding, maybe horizontally we can add 8, vertically I'll say 4 dps. Okay, what else do we need? We need to make it round corners, so I'll just make it round corner shape, and that is going to be 8 dp as well. And once everything is done, I'll add some background to this, and that is going to be light gray dot alpha 0.4f, light gray dot copy alpha 0.4f. Okay, so this is done. The next thing is that we need an image, so I'll use the async image that we have for stuff, and I'm gonna say item dot image URL, description is going to be null, and the image loader is, I don't need any. Second thing is that I need the modifier to have a size, so I'm gonna say 126 as width and 96.dp as height. So I've just added these values. Along with that, I'm gonna say content scale, that is going to be crop. Okay, so the image is there. The second thing is we need to have some spacer for this, so I'll just call it this. Now next thing is we need the column that basically shows the height and stuff, right? So basically this is going to be the column. It shows the product name as body medium, and also dot copy, I want to font weight to be semi bold. Okay, this is one thing, and then this is also going to be one thing. I guess this is supposed to be body medium, and this is going to be body small. Also the color for this one should be primary. Okay, so now the image is done. After the image we have the title section that is done, and now we have the icons on the top right section. So what I'll do is that I'll create a column again, and that column is supposed to contain modifier. So basically that is basically what we want, is that we want these arrangements to be arrangement dot center, and then horizontal alignment should go to end. Okay, and over here we have this spacer, but we don't need this spacer. First we need is that we need a delete button on top. So what I'm gonna do is that I'll create an image, or you can say an icon button, right? And inside that we'll create an image and call it painter resource r dot drawable dot whatever, right? We don't have that icon yet, but let's call it this for now, and then import the class r. And now what we need is that we need those two icon, one is for delete and one is for add. So, and one is for subtract. Okay, so I have all these three icons available. I'll just copy paste it over here so that I can use them. And now this is going to be the IC delete buttons first, that goes to the top, right? And then in the bottom section, what I'm going to do is that I'll create a raw, and inside the raw I'll say vertical arrangements is equals to alignment dot center, and then it will say IC add. What I've done is that inside the raw I have these three sections. One is icon button that says icon, like shows this, and then we'll see IC subtract button we have, and then this quantity which is there, and this is going to be item dot quantity dot to string. Okay, I guess that's pretty much what we need. We have this whole cart screen implementation done, and now we'll just do is that we'll go to the main activity, and inside the cart section where we are now showing cart, what I'll do is that I'll call it cart screen, and that cart screen should contain a nav controller. Then import this. Okay, now let's just run it and see if what we implemented are actually working. Now you can see we have this. Let's go to the cart section. Looks really bad. It does draw all the items, but somehow something is wrong with this. So let's just find what is wrong. Let's just go to the cart screen, and over here in the cart section you can see where we are. Okay, so this is the problem. The first thing is that we don't want this to be like this, like the cart items for each. This is supposed to be a lazy column, right? So I'll just get rid of this. Really sorry about that. What we will do is that we'll call it a lazy column, and now we will see items. So I'll call it lazy items, and now let's just see if what we are implement is actually work. Okay, there's this error. Let's just fix that and see if things works now. Okay, the loader goes to the top section, but other than that you can see we have pretty straightforward implementation, and when I reload it, it works like a charm. Now let's just fix that loader issue, and then we are done with this screen. So this loader section goes to the top right section because we are using it inside a box. So what I'm gonna do is that I'll use a column for this, and for that, what I'm gonna say is that modifier dot align, and then I'm gonna go to the center and I'll copy these two, paste it over here inside this, basically so that it's align inside the center. And for this I just need to, over here for the text message, I'm just gonna use modifier this. Okay, now let's just run it again, and now hopefully we'll be able to see these things the way we want, right? Let's go to the cart, and then it looks like that. Okay, now we need a button in the bottom with whatever text that we have. So let's just implement that. And now inside this section, what I'm gonna do is that I'll use a spacer. We don't need to have a spacer. What we need is that we need to create a button. Okay, and then modifier dot fill max width, right? And inside that we'll create a text that says checkout, I would say checkout. Okay, and the reason why I use this weight is that it will add a button to the bottom, and then for the rest of the screen it will cover this with the lazy column, right? This animated visibility will cover everything with that. So that is why I basically use that weight at that time. And now you see we will get a button over here in the on the top of that. So let's just do, now you can see that we have this button, and the reason it's been showing because it should show only if we want to show it. Okay, right? Now you can see that when I go to the cart, it goes to the bottom, sit there while the items are shown at top of it. So I guess that's pretty much for today. In the next video, what we will do is that we'll work with the quantities. We can add and subtract the quantities, and then we will jump towards orders. So hopefully you like the video, and if you did, please like the video. If not, please comment down below and tell me if you have any feedback, suggestion, and I'll see you in the next video. So till then, happy coding. Bye.